Let's take action to take care of our brave men and women who put their lives on the line to serve us locally, nationally, and around the world. It's time to tune in, join in, and plug in with us. Welcome to Alliance for the Brave.
We are the USA. In the air, everywhere around the world, you're listening to Alliance for the Brave, where we bring education, information, and communication to today's veterans, active duty military, first responders, patriots, and just any old buddy who'll listen. Hey, I'm Jim Blythe, U.S. Navy veteran, certified senior advisor. Joining me, my special team, these are the best people to work with. Ron Abrams, Texas Veterans Commission. Good morning, buddy.
Good morning, indeed. Welcome to everyone and to everyone on Facebook as well. Thanks for tuning in.
And the beautiful U.S. Army veteran, Miss Atoya Mason. Atoya, we've been a team, the three of us, off and on, but for over 5 years, haven't we?
Yes, we have. It's an amazing journey. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys can put up with me that long? Okay. Atoya, I am so excited today because this is a very special program. You have a great guest. Would you please tell us about it and interview her and introduce her?
Well, Jim, today our focus is on the events of 9/11 and how they affected us during that time frame. And so, as you know, I'm always out in the community. I met a wonderful, phenomenal person at a veterans event called Friends in Support of Heroes. Her name is Samantha Horwitz. And Samantha is a former Secret Service agent who was there at 9/11 in World Trade Center Building 1. And she's written a book. I had received a copy of it at the other event that I attended. And so when we were talking about having this 9/11 centered focus and the significance and what it means, I immediately thought of having her as a guest on our show, Jim.
All right. Why don't you introduce Samantha?
So Samantha Horwitz was a Secret Service agent. She is a business owner, entrepreneur. She's also a firearms instructor, as well as inspiring outreach program and for current and former first responders. She also works with our law enforcement and our U.S. military who are suffering from the effects of PTSD. Sam has been featured on many different shows and venues such as Good Morning America. And so she lives right here in our Dallas area. She's doing tremendous work. She has some projects coming up that she'll be talking about later on in our show. So without further ado, I would love to welcome Samantha Horwitz to our show.
Welcome to the show, Sam.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. It is such a pleasure to be with you. Atoya, thank you for that incredible introduction. I truly appreciate it. And I want to just start off by thanking all of you for doing this. We're coming up on 18 years. And for those of us that were there front and center, it just seems like it's always yesterday. Like it happened yesterday for all of us. We can recall exactly where we were, exactly what happened, but for the rest of those who are, trying to get an experience of what it was like on that day, it's just become kind of another day. And this year it happens to fall on a Wednesday. So I appreciate you remembering us and doing the show.
Absolutely. And we thank you for taking the time to call in today with us. We wanted you to be in studio with us. However, we knew that you had a previous engagement. You're so needed and you're in constant demand from based on your Facebook activities that I do follow as well. You keep quite a full calendar and schedule.
Hey, Faye. Oh, I'm sorry, Sam. I stepped over you. I was going to say, hey, Sam, bring a little bit of clarity to everybody. Tell us a little bit about your background. Where'd you grow up and about your family?
Well, I grew up in Rockville, Maryland, which is just outside of Washington, D.C. And my family has a rich history in the military. all the way back to my grandfather, who was in the Navy, and he served in the Battle of Guadalcanal. He was on 2 ships, and one of the ships he was bringing the Marines in for the battle when they were taken out by kamikazes. And his brother was in the Army. My dad volunteered during Vietnam, served in the Coast Guard, and basically every male in my family served, with the exception of my 2 nephews, who are, they're only 24 and 20 respectively. So it's in my blood, service, and I love what I'm doing now, what I'm able to do now. If 9/11 hadn't happened, I don't think I would be here doing the work that I'm doing and getting to talk to awesome people like you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Sam, I think it's really important too to tell your story about what happened and where you were on September 11th, because so you were working for the Secret Service, and tell us what happened.
So I was a Secret Service agent. There's a lot of different positions within the Secret Service. I was an agent, and I was assigned to the New York field office. And I was just going to work like the thousands of other people that day. And I parked my government vehicle in the parking garage, which was underneath World Trade Center 1, and started taking the elevator up to the plaza level, where I would exit and walk across the plaza level to my building, which was 7 World Trade. And we were the 3rd tallest building in the World Trade Center complex. And while in that elevator, all of a sudden it started shaking, the lights started flickering, and I thought we were having an elevator malfunction, and had no idea that some 94 stories above American Airlines Flight 11 had just struck the tower. And when the elevator car, it abruptly started moving very quickly, kind of like a vacuum. The way I explain it is like being sucked up in a vacuum. That's how fast we started going, not normal movement for an elevator. And when it finally stopped and the doors opened, we were met with a debris field all the way down in that lobby level. I immediately, my training brain took over. In the Secret Service, we trained amongst chaos. Our training academy, the folks do an incredible job so that we stay calm when bad stuff happens. And I grabbed as many people as I could. I exited the building, and as soon as I hit that plaza level, I knew something very, very bad had occurred. I was trying to shield myself and the people that were with me from debris that was falling all around us, pieces of metal, pieces of concrete, and even pieces of people. And we skirted around the building that we had exited from, and I finally was able to make it into my building, which again was 7 World Trade. And from there, tried to figure out what was happening. We all thought it was a bomb. And then while we're standing in the lobby of our building, that's when Tower 2 gets hit. Again, thinking an explosion, and all of the agents that were in the lobby with me, we're all staring at each other. We don't need to say a word. We're all thinking the same thing, that we're the 3rd tallest building in the World Trade Center complex. This is a coordinated bombing attack, and that we're next. And so we evacuated our building and made it to West Side Highway, where we got our first glimpse into what had actually occurred. And in front of us, the 2 towers, Tower 1, you could see a gigantic gaping hole in the upper floors, and behind it was Tower 2 with a thick black smoke trail. Again, thinking that these were bombs, not having any clue that these were planes. And it wasn't until an agent who was driving down the West Side Highway, that he was coming southbound, that he told us what happened. And we're just staring at these towers in disbelief. Like, it can't be planes. You know, these things are huge. Planes have a radar system. You'd notice them. And while we were talking and trying to figure this out, the Pentagon gets hit. We hear it on the radio. And now we're thinking, okay, are we at war? Has somebody attacked us? And it was the first time that we paused, and, you know, I had never been part of, call it, you know, frontline military fighting. And this was like being front and center, being attacked, but having no discernible enemy to go against. So here we are, you know, we're fully trained, coordinated, we're armed to the hilt, and we've got nobody to focus on. It's kind of a helpless feeling. And then we start seeing the people jumping from Tower 1.
Wow.
And that was an experience that stays with me to this day. It is one of the most disturbing images, I think, that anybody can, if you can wrap your head around it, because we could feel them when they hit the ground. And we knew that, you know, for me, trying to imagine what they were going through, like staying in the tower where they were and burning to death, or somewhere, I want to believe collectively in their mind, they saw that if they could jump to, you know, the walkway down below, that they would make it. And we watched this scene unfold, and then Tower 2 comes down, and we run into a school, which was very scary for the school folks. Here we are, they don't know who we are, and we are armed, and we've got different equipment. Some of us have our badges on, some of us don't. And we help eventually evacuate the school because we were only 2 blocks from what would be called Ground Zero by the end of the day. And as we're evacuating the school, the 2 agents and we were helping with this particular student that was having some trouble, and Tower 1 comes down, and we're forced to scoop him up and run to escape that dust cloud that's coming for us up West Side Highway. And we make it, and we had incredible help from the EMS, who saw we were carrying this person, and they got an ambulance and a stretcher and took care of him. And now we're standing on West Side Highway, and by this time we had walked further than you would ever in New York City on that day, and our pagers, communications lines, were still available to us because they came from our building, and so they were able to send messages to tell us where to go. The front of Building 7 had been significantly damaged at this point when Tower 1 came down.
Okay, Sam, I gotta
Yes.
tell you, what an unbelievable audio experience you just gave to us. I've seen the images of that dust cloud. I can't even imagine what it must have been like. So we're going to take a break for a couple of minutes, hear from our partners. And when you come back, let's dig deeper, though, not only in what affected you and what happened, but what you're doing now. So this is Jim Blythe with Atoya and Ron, your triple team for events, all
Employment,
veteran.
everything.
You got it. We'll be back in just a minute. This is Alliance for the Brave.
For our Facebook listeners, I don't know if you can hear us as of late, but I will tell you that we're having a very exciting program today. Samantha Horowitz, she was there on that fateful day with the Twin Towers there in New York, and she's telling us of her harrowing experience on that day. And it's not too often that you find someone who would share something like this. A lot of people have basically just disappeared into the crowd, disappeared into the darkness, and their stories aren't being heard anymore. So we're very privileged to have her on the show today. Feel free to write in. You can put in any comments that you would like. And if you have any questions, definitely feel free to put those in there. We're monitoring as we broadcast. And keep in mind, all of these shows are archived. So if you go to our website, allianceforthebrave.com, you can find them archived there. And of course, look for us on Facebook itself. Just look for Alliance for the Brave. That's either the number 4 or you can spell the number 4 out. Totally up to you.
You know, Ron, that's got to be a horrible experience being in a confined space like an elevator.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you get this shaking and then it drops like a rock to the ground floor. And
plus, she says she had to manage not only her team, but, the people that were around her as well. So, a panic situation like that, what do? You can't hear, you're hearing explosions, you're breathing in all this smoke, and yet you're supposed to, rely on your training, to stay calm. But one thing that reminded me of when she was telling of her story, we train like that in the Army and all the military, as a matter of fact. And one common expression is, training is chaos because war is chaos.
Yeah. Well, a Navy SEAL. Oh, okay. Sam, are you listening to our conversation?
I sure am.
Yeah.
It's riveting.
Well, I'm thinking about it. I know exactly where I was. I was fixing breakfast for a couple of teenage boys. And the interesting thing was on Good Morning America was on. Charlie, I can't think of Charlie's last name, but he was on. And so they were talking about this like a plane, something, some pilot had fouled up, and this was a terrible accident. And while he's talking, when the background of the towers, you see the second plane flying and hit it. And at that point, you knew this was not an accident. And so that was pretty amazing, Sam. I mean, man, if I'd have been in an elevator and something like that happened, because I know a lot about elevators, I'd have been real upset.
Yes. I don't know if upset was the word, but it's definitely changed being in small spaces. Like Ron, you had started the conversation during the break. That was something that, I wasn't claustrophobic. I didn't have any issues like that prior to entering the Secret Service. However, the minute I got back to my apartment that evening, I sure did realize that small spaces and I were not going to get along.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're actually coming back from our break.
Yeah, so let us bring it back.
We're going to come right back with that.
Okay.
You're listening to Alliance for the Brave, honoring, serving, and empowering those who serve our great country in the line of duty. Today's program is presented by Homebridge Financial Services, Gear Services Web Design, and Steve Swool, Farmers Insurance of Texas. Learn more about our mission and how you can plug in with us at allianceforthebrave.com. Now, back to the conversation.
Welcome back, Jim and Atoya and Ron. Atoya, you brought, and if you're just now tuning in or joining us on Facebook, we have an incredible interview with Samantha Horowitz, a former Secret Service agent who was in the towers on 9/11. Sam, could you continue on what you were talking about? Because we had a great conversation on the break.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Kind of fast forwarding that day, by the time I was able to make it back to my apartment with the assistance of the gracious agents from the New Jersey field office. And just to let you know, we got from New York to New Jersey with the assistance of the U.S. Park Police, who had small ferry boats that would do a lot of patrolling and everything on the Hudson. So we actually piled on there. They took us across The New Jersey field office agents were waiting for us, got us home. And, post-traumatic stress was something that we got like a 30-minute block on in training. It was just glossed over. Like PTSD, you see these 4 letters, but you never think it's going to happen to you. And there's no real connection to it. Like they never explain, if you experience a trauma, this might happen. So I get back to my apartment, and immediately I am noticing that I cannot be in an enclosed space. I go into my bathroom there because I'm still in my suit and everything, with that dust all over me, and all I want to do is clean up. And I close the door and I start sweating, my heart starts racing, and I open the door and those symptoms dissipate, and I'm like, wow, this is so weird. And the only thing I could do was sit in my kitchen. So here I am, as an agent, just like in the military, we are trained at such a high level. We possess skills that most of humanity don't. And yet I can't even be in my own bathroom in my own apartment.
Wow.
And so that was the first inkling that something was wrong. Now I pushed it aside because, again, I didn't make that connection that this had anything to do with PTS, and I'm going to call it PTS if you don't mind. One of the things that we're trying to do is remove that D,
Right.
which the disorder part in PTSD has come with a stigma, if you will, which specifically in the law enforcement community is preventing a lot of people from asking for help. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to call it PTS.
As a matter of fact, the Veterans Administration, they want to do the testing first before they add the D on there. So I'm glad you mentioned that. And one thing I wanted to ask you about, you said you had to start walking once you left the building. A lot of people don't realize those city blocks are pretty long. How long do you think you were walking once you left the building, though? How many miles?
Oh my gosh. Well, we're all the way downtown, and we had to walk all the way up to Pier 63. I wish I could give you exact miles. I can tell you that from the time the first plane hit to the time I made it back to my apartment, it was 5:30 p.m.
Wow.
One of the interesting things with PTS, for me personally, this doesn't happen with everybody, is putting together succinct timelines. So for instance, it is still very fuzzy. No matter what the event is, even if it's, things that have happened way after 9/11, even when I was writing my book, I had to consult other documents that I had and publications to be able to do that. And I know it sounds weird because people are like, well, how did you not know you were right there?
Right.
With PTS, it's a chemical change that occurs in your brain. That's the timeline I can give you. I got back to my apartment at 5:30.
As we come back from this break, man alive, what you experienced is unbelievable, but then what you're doing with it to be able to help others is really exciting, and that's what we're all about on Alliance for the Brave. So, Sam, when we come back, we're going to talk more about where did you go from there to get here, and we're excited about it. Sam Horowitz, thank you, Atoya, for bringing her aboard. And Ron, we'll be right back after these words from all of our partners. You're listening to Alliance for the Brave. Sam, while we're on the break, you can hear us.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want, man, there's so much that races through my brain, and we'd like to maybe have you come back, not once a year, but because of what you're doing with PTS, and this is Suicide Prevention Month. So as we move in to this next segment, which is a big segment, we'd like for you to kind of talk about how the PTS affected you, and then you put in your notes that we've got that you made a suicide attempt and how your family stepped in. And then the training, the book, all the things you're doing are really incredibly important. So we want to emphasize that and then make sure people know how to get a hold of you, what your contact information is, etc. I'm curious.
Okay, what did you want to lead off with? Like what do you
What
want
do
to
you think?
transition
Well,
to?
I wanted to go back to the remembrance portion. A lot of this, I was on recruiting duty in Hinesville, Georgia, but I just want to get the audience a feel if they can just remember where they were on that fateful day. Again, I was on recruiting duty in Hinesville, Georgia, and I was on my way to work when the news hit. So I'm watching it on television. I don't want to be late for work, so I'm rushing to the car to try to get on the radio. You know, I mean, it was a crazy day.
I think we should lead off with why is it important? What is the importance of remembering 9/11?
Right.
You know,
Indeed.
from Sam's perspective,
Okay.
and why this should be important to all of us. We all know why it's important. I mean, overall, but just to hear from her perspective, actually being there and experiencing the things that she experienced. I think sometimes with time, you know how they say as time goes on, we have a tendency to forget, or we have a tendency to kind of maybe, we forget the impact, because so many lives, thousands of lives were forever changed in just a few moments by that. And it's important for us that, especially with 9/11, when significant events like this come up, that we take the time to remember, to acknowledge them, and to even honor them, honor their lives. So I think that'd be a great place for us to come to get back in, jump back in when we come back from the break.
Latoya, I'll bring us back and then you lead us off. Hey, what did you think, just between us while we're waiting, what did you, when you went back, you knew that the Pentagon had hit, you maybe knew about the plane that was crashed into Pennsylvania. I believe it's Flight 93.
We had no idea about that.
You didn't know about that?
Not a clue.
Okay, but you knew about the other two incidents. Did you think we were being invaded, or what did you think? What in your what's going on in your head at that time? Oh my God, we're being invaded, or what?
Yeah, when the Pentagon was attacked and we heard that on the radio, not our radio kits that are attached to us, but on the actual radio, it wasn't until that we realized 747s, because we're hearing it on the radio, and if it's attacking the Pentagon.
Sam, I'm sorry. We're coming back. Sorry about that.
Okay.
She's giving us the signal.
How's your golf game? Meet Pat Wheeler, host of Texas Links on the Air.
The thing I love about golf, it's the discussions are never ending. You can talk about anything and it's interesting. The clothes, the courses, the instruction, the equipment, and the people who play, of course. The quote of the year so far in 2018, Dr. Lemack said, "I'll be 110 days. I think I'll get a Hershey bar and go hit some balls." That's what we talk about on Texas Links on the Air. Don't miss it.
Texas Links on the Air, Saturday mornings at 8 on 1160 AM, KBDT.
Today's program is brought to you by Homebridge Financial Services, Gear Services Web Design, and Steve Sewell, Farmers Insurance of Texas. Visit us on Facebook or online at allianceforthebrave.com. Join the conversation by calling 214-810-TALK. That's 214-810-8255. And now back to Alliance for the Brave.
Welcome back. This is your dynamic trio, and we've got one of the greatest interviews, especially when we're talking about 9/11, right, Latoya?
Yes, Jim, we have Samantha Horwitz on the line speaking with us today about her experiences there at 9/11. Sam, what is the importance of remembering 9/11 to you, and why should this be important to all of us?
I mean, for me, that 9/11 changed my life completely, and I feel like when people take the time to remember, in some small way, it honors the sacrifice that I made in my service, but it also allows me to remember while I'm here and my mission now. I was given a second chance, and it's important for our country to remember 9/11 in terms of historical significance, because other than Pearl Harbor, it's the only other time in history where we were attacked on our own soil. So 9/11 changed the landscape of everything we do now, whether it's banking, airline travel, even making online purchases. It's all connected. We can go back to 9/11 because at that time things which we thought were secure had holes in it, if you will. It changed the lives of not only the almost 3,000 people that were killed that day, but it single-handedly wiped out the fire department in New York. I mean, just take a second to think about how big New York City is and how many fire stations there were, and those folks are gone. This country needs to remember their sacrifice. It really is quite a picture, and if you watch the videos of that day, I don't particularly, for me, I don't revisit that in terms of watching all the newsreels and everything, but to have such a catastrophic event going on and watching these folks run into these buildings while everybody else is running out. You know, there's a reason why the motto became never forget. And personally, I feel that a lot of the country just sees it as another day. And because 18 years, that's a long time. But you know what? We still study history in school.
Yes,
we still study World War II. People know, even young people know about Pearl Harbor. How come we don't know about 9/11?
That's a good
You know,
question.
I'll leave people to ponder. Why isn't the history of that taught? Because there is a huge history. It's why our men and women that volunteered after 9/11 to go to Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom, there's a reason they went there. Those enemies existed prior to 9/11, and we're still fighting them today. Yet all of this is left out of the history books. It's an interesting thing. It really is interesting to me.
Speaking of interesting, I think it's going to be interesting to read your book as well. But before we get into your book, could you let us know the program that you developed as far as handling and managing post-traumatic stress on a daily basis? Could you go into that?
Sure. So the book was a catalyst for all of that. It was not only a labor of love for me, but also a great form of therapy. Writing is something, and journaling is something that I suggest if you have PTS or if you deal with stress on a regular day. Let's face it, what we're seeing now is about 75 to 80% of doctor's visits are directly tied to stress in our lives. And if we can get a clearer picture and understand how stress works in our life, then we can start to collectively address it at a level where we can work on and take away those stressful triggers and the stress responses. So on my website, I just put up some really cool tools that are free. You can go to SamanthaHorowitz.com and you'll see it as you scroll down my page. Just put your email in and they'll be available right there. And it includes a free chapter of my book in an audio format, so you can get some in-depth idea of kind of what we're talking about here.
And folks have an opportunity to sit in one of your workshops as well, right? You have something coming up on the 28th of September of this month?
Absolutely, yeah. I have a great friend who's also a 9/11 first responder. He's a former NYPD detective. And he and I will be in Arlington at the end of September on the 28th. And we're doing specifically a PTS workshop geared towards letting people understand what PTS is, how it affects you on a daily life, in your daily life, also family, how family can be supported and also give support to a person who is affected. We're going to have members of different law enforcement agencies. We're going to have an amazing folks from a peer support network, which is the change that we're wanting to make in our law enforcement community, in our first responder community, is again eliminating that stigma. So we're starting to bring in and see that shift from, you know, the department's handling it internally, and I mean it like the stress of the folks, versus now it's going to peer support. So if you think about it, you all are veterans. You know, do you want to sit in a room and talk about what's going on in your head, like the really bad stuff? Do you want to sit there and talk to somebody who's never been in your shoes? Or do you want to talk to somebody who gets you? I vote for B, and that's what we've been trying to do for years. This is like really hard work because it involves the cities, you know, the counties, the localities. Because in Texas, you know, we're huge. We do things big, and we've got tons of departments out there. And so we're chipping away at that, and we're starting now finally to see the change into this peer support and the support for the trauma in that mode versus the traditional mode that existed for so long.
Sam, this is Suicide Prevention Month in September, and we're going to be partnering up with the VA healthcare system in some of our programming. But again, this is really a key factor in helping to prevent suicide, isn't it?
It sure is, and I have been there. You know, PTS, it got, I tell it, it's kind of like, I kind of get choked up a little bit when I explain it, but it is something that invades your entire being if you don't get help. And it took me to a depth that I never imagined I would be in. And I saw no way out. I didn't think that anybody would miss me because I had become a different Sam. Pre 9/11 Sam was a completely different person. I didn't recognize this person now. I couldn't fix myself, which was so frustrating. And so in the wee hours of New Year's Eve, one year, I was bound and determined to end it. And I sat in my basement with my gun to my head, ready to do that. And call it a God wink, call it an intervention, whatever your belief system is. I was talked to twice, and it was my dog, who's no longer with us, but my dog at that time, who ended up saving my life. And I'll never be without a dog. I have 3 now, and they're actually sitting all around me as I talk to you all. And so I want everybody to know that it's okay not to be okay. The biggest thing you need to do is you just need to talk to somebody. If you have nobody, if you live on your own, you have a pet, talk to your dog, talk to your cat, talk to your hamster. You got to just start talking.
I like that.
And once you start doing that, talk to the next person. Believe it or not, it's in those dark times, and when we're able to share with somebody from that, that's when we start picking ourselves up. And that's when you never know when you're going to be telling your story to somebody who needs to hear it that day, and you end up saving their life.
Yes. And I like the way you said, just talk to your animals. You know, some dogs, they'll just put their paw on your knee or just look at you with the soft eyes, all of that. But I like the fact that you've got that workshop coming up, and I didn't want anyone to miss the address and the location. But I'd like to share that now. That's going to be again on the 28th of September from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the downtown Arlington, Texas Public Library. Address there, 100 South Center Street.
And Sam, a big part of this workshop, you're going to be teaching people to talk, but you're also going to be talking about tools that they can use to reach out, both tools for family members, because your family reached out to you, correct?
Yeah, they did. They were silently watching all of this unfold unbeknownst to me. They had no idea about my suicide attempt. I hid it for as long as I could, which meant until I wrote the book. And I know that sounds ridiculous. Again, going back to that stigma, not wanting to appear weak or that there was something wrong with me. But my mom, who has, she's been a clinician in the dental field, but she also has gone through her own stuff. And she saw the signs. She saw that clearly I was having a very difficult time. And when the time was right, she and my husband are a very close relationship. I'm very blessed there. She approached me, and I said she put the ultimate gift in my hand, which was a piece of paper with a name and a number on it for somebody who was super experienced, who practiced a therapy called EMDR, which I write about exclusively in my book. We're also going to talk about that at the workshop. Highly effective tool, and it saved my life.
Now, I wanted to ask you, how did you come up with the title for the book, though, The Silent Fall?
So a part of PTS and my particular journey is when you're kind of in the thick of it, whether it's continuing to suffer triggers and just going down, as I describe it, into a deep, dark place. I pushed away and isolated. So I was silent. I didn't talk to anybody, and my husband and my mom being the exception, because I didn't want anybody to know. So I suffered in silence until, the fall.
Very good.
Did your Secret Service organization, did they recognize any of this, or had you already resigned from the Secret Service?
They did the best that they could. At the time, this country had never experienced anything like this, like I said, until, way back in Pearl Harbor. And so we got one debrief, and that was it. So we had a field office. Let me back up. We didn't have a field office in terms of structurally, because Building 7 was the last one to come down on 9/11. So we were spread out amongst the city. We were all suffering, all dealing with this in our own way. Nobody would talk about it. I reached out for help, 2 or 3 times. It was just told, they couldn't make it back up to New York because our headquarters was in DC. And so I just thought there was nobody to help. No resources, nothing.
Wow. Sam, this is such an exciting story. We're going to ask you to come back in the future, but we're going to take a break for just a second and then wrap it up. Your final thoughts and how important, again, as Atoya said, never forget 9/11. I am so thankful that you're on board with us this morning. I can't wait to get a chance to meet you. Diane and I are just really excited. We're going to be there at your deal on the 28th. So people can go to your website, SamanthaHorowitz.com, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Yep. We'll be right back after these words from our partners. You've got the Gleason Threesome, the dynamic trio. We're here for helping you get through another day.
I laughed at it.
The Gleason.
It was hilarious. That was quite funny.
Sam, I hope I didn't throw you off going into the gist of the title there, but I just thought it was very
not
interesting.
At all.
Yeah. Now, when we come back, we definitely want to repeat your contact information again and your website.
Okay.
So don't let us forget.
Yes.
Okay. I promise I won't. I really appreciate this again.
Yeah, Sam, Diane just came in and said, do they need to do a reservation or sign up to join you in the library on the 28th? What do they need to do?
Yeah, they can call the library, and the library has been so gracious in putting this together and putting out the information for us. They can go ahead and call there, and then the library, I believe, is formulating a list. We're trying to get a link from them so that it'll be available online. That hasn't happened yet. So they can just, if they want to just call the library.
And Samantha, you created a Facebook event for this as well, correct? Or I thought I
John
saw
Salerno
something.
created the Facebook event. Yes.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
shared. Yeah. So my partner, John,
Okay.
yeah. So
You
there
know-
is a Facebook event out there.
And the interesting thing is if I'm sitting here and remembering, Pearl Harbor was an attack against our military. It was an attack against the Navy. It was an attack against a military installation. 9/11 was an attack against civilians. That's a huge difference in my mind. Don't you agree?
Wow. I never thought about that. Yeah.
'Cause this was an
You're
attack.
right.
Yeah, the military attack of Pearl Harbor was to stop our military, shut down our military. This attack from civilians against civilians. I mean, quite frankly, there were other strategic targets that they could have picked that could have been absolutely more devastating financially and economically and everything else to the United States and the World Trade Center. This was a personal attack, a slap in the face against civilians, against the nation as a whole.
Yeah. I guess I just see it as, when you have a catastrophic event, an attack, it's just, we're people. But I understand the distinction, and you're right. Yeah.
You say you have a New York City detective that'll be helping you with the workshops. Can we expect a heavy New York accent?
Very much. He will.
Wow.
He will turn on that crave for Italian food.
Ha ha ha! Hey Sam, we know the play. I would also make a comment that you live about as far away from DFW Airport as you can get in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm not quite as far as
All right, here we
Greenville
go.
and out that way.
Here
Okay.
we go.
You're listening to Alliance for the Brave, honoring, serving, and empowering those who serve our great country in the line of duty. Today's program is presented by Homebridge Financial Services, Gear Services Web Design, and Steve Sewell, Farmers Insurance of Texas. Learn more about our mission and how you can plug in with us at allianceforthebrave.com. Now, back to the conversation.
Sam, this is Jim Blythe. As we're wrapping up and talking about your unbelievable experience and then how you've taken that forward to create a website, to write a book. You're now doing workshops. Again, we want to repeat, where's that workshop's going to be on the 28th and how people can get there and who they can contact.
We will be at the downtown Arlington Public Library. Folks can call the library directly, get your name on the list, let them know that you're attending. They've been awesome in coordinating this whole event. You'll also see there's a Facebook invitation, an event announcement going around. If you want to reach out to me on Facebook, on the interwebs, on Facebook and Twitter, I'm at the Sam Horwitz, and I can get you all of the link to that event as well. It's at the downtown Arlington Library.
I think this is so marvelous what you're doing and all you're accomplishing to help people.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to say too, again, and I actually have a signed copy of Sam's book here in studio, A Secret Service Agent Story of Tragedy and Triumph After 9/11, The Silent Fall, Samantha Horwitz. And the illustration on the cover is remarkable. I've read the book backwards and forwards since I received it from you, Sam. And on the inside, you autographed my book. You said to be courageous, but I just want to share with you that you are one of the most incredible and courageous people that I have ever encountered.
Well,
Sam,
thank you. I appreciate that. Yes.
You bet. Your book is your book on Amazon? Where can we find your book?
It is on Amazon. However, if you'd like a personalized copy of it, I'd be happy to do that for folks. You just visit my website, again, SamanthaHorwitz.com. You can purchase it right there. I'll get the information. I'll sign it to you or whomever you'd like me to sign it to and ship it off. So everything that you need is right there. I want to say that in addition to taking pause next Wednesday on September 11th to just remember, it doesn't have to be anything, elaborate. There is a way to participate with the Dallas community to come out to Reverchon Park on September 15th. It's a Sunday. It's the 9/11 Heroes Run. And I am the DFW co-chapter lead of a veteran service organization called the Travis Manion Foundation. And every year we come together in Dallas to honor our 9/11 heroes. And if you want to run, you can still register, 911heroesrun.org. Or if you want to volunteer, you can sign up to volunteer. We would love to have you out there to participate in that.
And you'll be out there with some of your books, right? I could buy one of your books and get you to sign it right then and there.
The funny thing is, and I think it's a little bit ironic, this was supposed to be, the 9/11 Heroes Run was supposed to be today. However, we did not want to interfere with the 9/11 stair climb that's going on and a couple other events, so it was changed to next week. I happen to have had already accepted a gracious invitation for a 3-day workshop. So as much as it hurts, I would love to be there. I won't be able to be there, but you can meet John Salerno, who will be there. That's my partner helping me with the workshop, in his fire gear that he actually donned on 9/11. He worked the pile in this specific fire gear. He never got rid of it. He will be out there. We'll have another amazing guest who is a veteran, and I'm not going to ruin the story, but this guy has got a story.
All right, Sam, we're so grateful. And I want to say a prayer. Thank you, Jesus, for all of our veterans, all of our active duty, all of our first responders, all of our armed services, and all they do to protect us and keep us safe. And bless those who were involved in 9/11. Let us never forget. In Jesus Christ's holy name's sake, we pray. Amen. Sam, thank you for being on board.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate you.
We look forward to meeting you. We'll be right back.
Thank you very much.
We'll be right back with more on 9/11 from our great team, Colonel John Antal. We'll be right back.
He's not driving yet.
Tell London I said, what's up? What's up?
Is she gone? Is Sam gone?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. Sam, you still there?
Thank you so much. I am. Thank you guys so much. I so appreciate it. And I do want to meet you guys. You know, I'm fresh off the heels from doing the Glenn Beck show. And I just am glad that I was able to be here with you on the phone. Technology, it does good things sometimes.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. And we just want to again say thank you, Sam. We're definitely going to have you back on the show again. It just is not enough time. You're continue to do the incredible things you're doing and in our community. And I definitely will see you around in our circles.
You bet. I'm giving you all a big collective hug.
Absolutely. Thank you. Enjoy
Thank
the
you.
rest of your
All
day,
right.
Sam.
Bye, Sam.
Thanks. You do the same. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And for our Facebook listeners, next up, Colonel John Antal. He's about to come on and share some great insights on leadership. And as a matter of fact, he's going to share some other events that are coming up, especially in the month of October. So make sure you take some good notes and give you a little hint. Try to work on your frequent flyer miles and make sure you can tack on some more. You got another chance coming up.
Yeah, number. Cavalry.
Hey, I tell you what, wasn't for the cavalry,
God bless the Navy. Don't get me wrong.
we're all in it together. Somebody said something to me the other day, and I said, no, you don't. Oh, I'm Army and yada yada yada. I said, you know what? We're all brothers and sisters.
Absolutely, brothers in arms.
Brothers in arms.
And maybe even